Time to transition into being a real booktuber, doing the Midyear Freakout Tag.
Oh my god! Wow!
Okay, I have the questions pulled up on my iPad. Yeah, so let's go through them one by one. What's the best book you've read so far in 2025? This might be recency bias, but honestly, I cannot stop thinking of this book. Martyr by Kaveh Akbar is so fascinating. It's a literary fiction novel. It's also told in a very experimental format. We see a lot of back and forth, changes in POV, time period, and it centers around this man named Cyrus, who is Iranian American. He was born in Iran and moved to the United States as a baby with his father after his mother was murdered or shot down on that plane that was shot by the US in 1988 during the Iran-Iraq War. It centers around this concept that Cyrus is obsessed with about martyrdom, about seeing his mother as a martyr, about seeing his father who died after he went off to college as a martyr, about Cyrus's own feelings of his own impending death, whether it be by choice or by addiction, because he is in recovery, but he struggles a lot with the fact that he's in recovery. And it's such a good book. It's definitely one that I think will have mixed reviews for some people, but I was on the end of this is a masterpiece. What's been your favorite sequel this year? This is going to be extremely easy to answer because I just have not read that many sequels, but I have been rereading one of the best series of my childhood. Catching Fire, book 2 of The Hunger Games, was definitely by far my favorite sequel. And if you somehow don't know about what Catching Fire is about, it follows Peeta and Katniss post the Hunger Games, and it starts off with them doing the tour around the various districts, their victory tour, and we also see the third quarter quell. Is there a new release that you haven't read yet, but you're really excited to? This one's pretty easy. I actually got this copy from my local library through their summer reading challenge. I got a free copy. The Unworthy by Augustina Basterica. It's translated from Spanish. The author is Argentinian. She's actually the one who wrote Tender is the Flesh, which I have not read yet, but I've also heard amazing things. This one, from what I've heard, deals with some culty things and religious trauma and I think Catholicism based on the cover. Don't know, but it's very short and I feel like I could get this done in like an afternoon sitting. So I'm hoping to get to that in the fall because that's when I like to read more of the dark academia, fantasy, paranormal, whatever this falls onto. I think this is magical realism, but I don't know for sure. What's your most anticipated release for the second half of 2025? I actually have two answers for this. The Bewitching by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, who I actually got to meet at a conference a few months ago, and she was really cool and gave me this arc. I don't actually know too much about what The Bewitching is about, other than that there are 3 witches, and I think they're related. It's a multi-generational saga, and I love a multi-generational saga. And I think magical realism is involved, which is multi-generational saga, Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I'm ready. This is why I keep my doors locked at night. Catabasis by R.F. Kuang, who I also got to meet earlier this year. I actually met her at Shelves in the City, LA, and she was so smart. And this one is a dark academia that I am super excited for. Apparently, it's a student who is trying to get a letter of recommendation from a professor who has accidentally died. And now I think it's 2 students who have to go into the underworld to get these letters of recommendation. So it's like leaning into the absurdity. I'm currently reading The Odyssey, both for another video I've been working on for like 2 months, but also just in preparation for Catabasis because apparently it draws heavily from The Odyssey. And I'm really excited to dive into it, even though it is thick. Biggest disappointment of the year. I have 2 truly awful books. Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I did not read this by choice. I read it for work and yikes. Yikes. I think it was probably bad even during his time. So if that says anything about the portrayal of the Congo and Africans in the Congo. It's also really boring, which made it even worse. I hope this reaches her in time by R.H. Sin. I did not know who R.H. Sin was before reading this. A coworker gave me this book to read, and it was an attempt at poetry, that's for sure. As somebody who reads a lot of poetry and writes a lot of poetry, this was not good poetry. Biggest surprise of the year has to go to Margot's Got Money Troubles by Rufy Thorpe. I didn't go into this expecting much. I was like, okay, it's contemporary fiction. What's the hype? But as I got more and more and more into the novel, it truly surprised me in so many positive ways, and I ended up enjoying it a lot. Another one that pleasantly surprised me, Home is Not a Country by Safia Elilo, was also a pleasant surprise. It is a novel in verse, a young adult novel in verse that I've had on my shelf for, I kid you not, 4 years collecting dust, and I finally picked it up this year, and I regret not picking it up sooner because it was so good, and it does a great job of exploring what it is to be a child of diaspora, what it is to be forever in between cultures and having to consolidate that, having to figure out how to fit in and the struggles that come with fitting in either community, and always feeling like you're not doing quite enough for whatever direction you're going. And I loved it. I think it came together especially well at the end, and I really enjoyed it. New fave author, I think that's going to go to Kaveh Akbar. He is basically my favorite poet's favorite poet. Almost all of my favorite poetry collections and almost all of my favorite poets have included him in their acknowledgement page at one point or another. He also gave a really great talk. Can't remember which organization, but it's one of the ones that I sign up for newsletters for, and I think I donate to actually, because I'm super into poetry. And he read a few poems of his own. He read poems that inspired him, and he's just so smart. Like he's someone who takes in a lot of information and processes it very well and communicates it in interesting ways. And so I read Pilgrim Bell, one of his poetry collections. I tried to read one of his earlier poetry collections. I think it's A Wolf Calling a Wolf or something. I'll put a picture here. I DNF'd it because I think it was a little too dense, was having trouble navigating it, especially the way it was written and the way that the poems were broken up, because they weren't broken up in conventional ways. Very experimental. But I really liked Pilgrim Bell, and I really loved Martyr. The fact that Martyr is his debut novel is truly, truly amazing, because that kind of talent is something you expect out of a very seasoned writer, a very seasoned author. And I'm sure he's probably written other books that maybe haven't been published quite yet. And I am going to be patiently waiting for whatever ends up being his next book or poetry collection. Fave new crush, Matt from Next to You by Hannah Bonham Young. He is a Samoan man. This was my first time reading a romance with a Samoan male MC, and I really like how it's clear that Hannah Bonham Young has done her research, because so much of his family and so much of his character felt very true and very real. And also, he just sounded really hot, and I like that. I like my Samoan men hot in my romance books. Thank you very much. He's also very kind, and it's a friends to lovers. What can I say? What can I say? Matt is truly so cute and so hot. My favorite new character goes to Kwame from Kwame Crashes the Underworld by Craig Kofi Farmer. I think he was such a great protagonist to follow. He's a very funny kid, and I really liked being in his head. I feel like he's somebody that a lot of kids can probably relate to. He was hilarious. I really enjoyed seeing his thought process and the way that he figured things out throughout the novel. And I think he's a great protagonist to follow, and I'm looking forward to continuing on the series and seeing what book 2 will be like. A book that made you cry. Middle grade came through with the heavy hitters this year. I have 3 books from middle grade that all made me cry. Place to Shine by Marie Arnold features 2 kids who are going to go into the foster system, and it also features found family that is done incredibly well. We see a lot of grief representation. We see a grandparent who is experiencing dementia. It's so many real and pressing issues that kids today are facing in day-to-day life, and I really appreciate how much care was put into this novel. Between Two Brothers by Crystal Allen. So with this novel, Isaiah Ice Abernathy and his brother Seth are incredibly close. And one day Seth is in an awful, awful car accident, and they don't know if he'll ever be able to walk or talk again. And we see the ways in which Isaiah processes this. We see the ways in which he starts helping his brother in the ways that he can. And we also see the aftermath and the fallout of that car accident and the ways it impacts Isaiah's family and his entire community. And I'm starting to tear up just thinking about it again. Shark Teeth by Sherry Winston is about a girl who is truly parentified. Her mother is simply not a responsible or active or at times even caring person. And we see how this affects Sharkita, who goes by Kita, but she's often made fun of for her shark teeth. So we see the interpersonal issues that she has with her fellow students, but we also see what goes on in her family life as she basically has to parent her 2 younger siblings. And I will assure you it does have a relatively happy ending, but it's quite a ways to go to that. Prettiest books you've bought this year, and that has to go to the deluxe set of The Hunger Games that I bought after reading Sunrise on the Reaping. They're so pretty. I think this is how people should be doing sprayed edges. Here we have The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, Mockingjay, and I have not read this at all. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Yeah, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I have not read. I read Sunrise on the Reaping without reading this, so I will get to it eventually. A book that made you happy this year. First off, I was told there would be romance by Marie Arnold. She is truly becoming one of my favorite authors, and this book was hilarious. Yes, she has the range to make you cry, and she can also make you laugh. It's about a girl who gets into quite a bit of trouble and is worried about the threat of being sent back to Haiti. And those tend to be some of my favorite books. I'm happy that more and more stories are coming out like that. We see something similar in Dear Haiti, Love Lane by Maika and Mirza Moulid, one of my all-time favorite books. Truly. This one is also very short, which is great for the in-between of middle grade and YA, and it's definitely one that I will be recommending to students throughout the year. And Lula Dean's Little Library of Banned Books by Kristen Miller. This was truly a surprise. It hadn't been on my radar at all until I saw it on Hoopla, which is what my library uses instead of Libby, and I got the audiobook. I was like, okay, that's a funny title. But the book itself is absolutely hilarious. It's a great satire of book banners and what book banners are like and the ways in which they are absolute hypocrites. And it's just so well written. I think I will probably eventually get a physical copy to add to my personal collection. But as you can see, my personal collection does not need more. Not at the moment. But I love that book, and it is one that I really need more people to pick up because it's just so good. It's such a good satire. That's how you do a satire. And TBR for the rest of the year. These are just the books on my physical TBR that I want to get to this year. I'm currently rereading the Hunger Games series. I've already read Sunrise on the Reaping for the first time. I've reread The Hunger Games and Catching Fire. I'm currently up to Mockingjay, which I will be starting today. And then I'll be reading A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which I have actually never read. And I am terrified because I hate President Snow. It's wild to me that I have a master's in Caribbean literature, but I have never read a Julia Alvarez novel, so I am really hoping to get to In the Time of Butterflies this year. The publisher actually sent me all three of Julia Alvarez's novels that have been published under Algonquin, and I'm really excited to get to that. I was sent this copy of Blood at the Root by Ladarian Williams. All I know is that it includes references to the Haitian Revolution, and so I'm really excited to get into it and see if it's portrayed well. And I'm pretty sure I was sent the sequel too. I just don't remember where I put it in my book tower. I got sent this copy of The Palace of Eros by Caro de Rebertes, which I'm very excited for because, as y'all know, I am very, very into Greek mythology, and I actually really like Eros personally. I don't know too much about Eros, but from what I do know about the myths, he's just kind of a lover boy, and I'm excited to see how he's portrayed in this alongside Psyche, because I don't know how I feel about Psyche. I don't really know too much about Psyche. Or wait. Oh my gosh, actually in this, Eros is not non-binary. Ooh. Cool. So Medina by Akwaeke Emezi. It's funny because I've only ever read You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi, and I know Akwaeke Emezi is somebody that a lot of people in the community love, and so I'm excited to read another genre from them. As mentioned before, The Unworthy by Augustina Bazterrica. Detained by D. Esperanza. I feel like this is a very timely read. It is nonfiction, and it is about a boy who was separated from his family and placed in ICE detention. Yeah, I think this is a good time to read that. The Odyssey by Homer, translated by Emily Wilson. I am currently up to book 9 out of 24, and I don't think you can see my bookmark. And yeah, still got a chunk to go. Of course, I've already talked about The Bewitching and Catabasis. And I'm really excited to read Kingdom of No Tomorrow by Fabian Josephat this month with my book club on Bindery. If you're interested in reading alongside me and many others, feel free to join. I actually got sent this physical copy by the publisher, but I know Fabian Josephat personally, which is why the publisher sent it to me. And she's such a great person. I'm very excited to read this. It is basically a historical fiction about a woman who leaves Haiti during the dictatorship and ends up in California and somehow ends up joining the Black Panther Party. And I'm very excited to see how that ends up coming to be. Thank you for joining me for this mid-year freakout tag and helping me not freak out. I'm very excited for what the rest of this year holds. I'm currently up to 52 books read, and my goal is to get 100 books read by the end of the year. I'm on track. I'm 2 books ahead so far, so we'll see if I hit that goal by December 31st, 2025. I'm trying to keep interest by moving my camera around constantly, but I don't know if that's actually doing anything in my favor. Let me know. I'm curious to see if you guys actually like the fact that I move my camera constantly, or if you want me to stay in place and you're just putting me on as background noise while you wash the dishes. I'd like to know.